Hey everyone, it's Sarah Walsh here. Today I'm going to take you through some training and education on another very common hormone imbalance that I see with my clients. And it's one that's fueling a lot of symptoms, but most people don't know that they've actually got this hormonal imbalance. So these are the symptoms that someone with adrenaline dominance may have. I'm not saying that you'd have all of them, but someone with adrenaline dominance will have at least some of these symptoms. Anxiety and depression, classic when you've got adrenaline dominance. You might feel tired all day and then you're kind of like wired and jittery at night. PTSD and ADHD both have a root of adrenaline dominance. It's too much adrenaline. Insomnia. So you might either struggle to fall asleep, stay asleep, or you might be waking often during the night to go to the toilet, or you might wake in the middle of the night, kind of have that racing heart and you've got all those kind of negative racing thoughts. Constant urination is one as well. So if you're someone who constantly needs to urinate, that has a root cause of adrenaline dominance almost every single time. The need to urinate, or even the need to urinate, but then you can't go. So that's something that quite a lot of people struggle with. They feel like they need to go, but when they get there, they can't actually go. It's too much adrenaline. So you might be the type of person who's kind of, you're always rushing, you can't sit still, you kind of thrive on stress. You can't let yourself feel bored, like you might be watching a movie, but at the same time, you're scrolling on your phone, because just sitting and watching the movie is just not enough to keep you kind of, fueling that adrenaline. You might have a racing heart. That's a classic one. Whenever I hear racing hearts with my clients, I'm always knowing that they've got too much adrenaline. Addictions as well. So addictions massively have a root cause to too much adrenaline. And that generally happens to people who have a childhood of kind of trauma. And I've seen that kind of quite often. If you've had childhood trauma from your parents, they've also got adrenaline dominance. So they've also got the addictions and the violence and the kind of up and down hormones as well. And then you get it as well. Bedwetting in children and bedwetting in anyone is going to be too much adrenaline. Teeth grinding, mood swings, road rage. You've got absolutely no patience for anyone. It's too much adrenaline. Diarrhea as well. When you have an adrenaline surge, it will definitely give you, you probably won't be constipated if you've got too much adrenaline. Okay, let's just put it that way. So there's generally two types of body types I see with someone who has adrenaline dominance. So it'll either be a very thin person and you're kind of got that body type where you're not very hungry, you have low appetite. Low appetite is generally too much adrenaline. You might be cold, you're kind of shaky, you can't get warm. You've got that kind of agitated, kind of, racing heart. Very thin. That's the first type. And then what we see is another type of adrenaline dominance, which is when the adrenaline has basically just down regulated your thyroid so much that you've gained body weight all over. So you may be either underweight or very, very thin, cold, shaky, can't sleep, or you might have weight gain on your full body. You might also have adrenaline dominance, but then you've also got estrogen dominance and you've also got too much cortisol. So that will also cause a lot of weight gain. So that's very common as well, because it's not often like we would see a client with just one hormone imbalance. So if you've got one hormone imbalance, it'll generally snowball because of what it does to the other glands and hormones in your body. And then you'll end up with all these other hormonal imbalances as well. So quite frustrating, but I'm going to tell you what to do. So what are we going to cover? We're going to cover what is adrenaline dominance, what causes this, and then we're going to go through the nutritional therapy and lifestyle strategies that I take my clients through. Because you don't, if you've generally got these symptoms, you might be put on anti-anxiety medication, you might be put on a whole host of medication that, again, does not heal the root cause. Okay, it's just going to mask the symptoms, and you're probably going to come off that medication feeling even worse, unfortunately. Okay, so what is adrenaline? The adrenal glands are two little triangle-shaped glands just above your kidney, and they're what's considered your body's stress hub. There's two separate parts of the adrenal glands. It's the outside part is called the adrenal cortex, and that's endocrine tissue. And that's going to produce and release your body's steroid hormones. And one of those hormones is called cortisol. So cortisol is responsible for your body's long-term stress, right? Not long-term stress response. On the inside of the adrenal cortex, you've got the medulla, which is the nerve tissue. The inside of the adrenal glands actually part of the sympathetic nervous system. So this is all nerve tissue. And this is where adrenaline is created and released. It's your body's short-term stress response. It's what we would call a fight or flight mode, okay? So what is adrenaline dominance? Simply put, it is too much adrenaline in the body, okay? So if we think about it this way, it's a survival hormone. It's only meant to be released quickly while you're like running away from a tiger or something, and then it's meant to be released back down to homeostasis, okay? So it's triggering this fight or flight response, which gets the body ready for action. It's only meant to last a short period of time. The issues happen when it is constantly spiked and your body is not able to return it back down to homeostasis, okay? So imagine you've had a run of bad luck, you've had a car crash, someone you loved has passed away, you're having financial problems, you lost your job, everything's happening, your body is in such a fight or flight mode that it's not able to return this adrenaline back to homeostasis. And it is very, very common in this modern age. Like, there is so much stuff that is triggering us now that would never have triggered our ancestors. And one of them is the constant barrage of information. So there's news on 24/7 and it's always negative. Of course, it's always negative. You're scrolling Facebook and you see someone, someone's posted it, something that triggered me the other day. Someone posted a dead cat and it just upset me. And I thought, in history, humans were never being exposed to this much bad news constantly. And it's also things like, what I've noticed, I've had adrenaline dominance my whole life, and we'll talk about that more soon. But what I've noticed is, now that I'm healed, there's so much TV and movies that people with adrenaline dominance are kind of addicted to, because they're so traumatic and they're so confronting and they're so grotesque and full of horror. And those are the types of things that someone with adrenaline dominance can become that's the type of thing that they would like to watch, because it keeps them in that kind of adrenaline dominant state. Okay, so what causes adrenaline dominance? So oftentimes it can have a root cause in childhood, and I would say most often it does have a root cause in childhood. So childhood trauma, abuse, sexual abuse, poverty, grief, violence. If you didn't have a safe place when you were a child, and I talk about this in my other masterclass as well. If you were, as a baby, left to cry, and basically that puts a baby in an adrenaline dominant state, and you end up in this kind of feedback loop where you're constantly craving more adrenaline through your life. You can even have a birth trauma where you were born in an emergency C-section, and that can start you on adrenaline dominance for your life. Circumcision on a baby boy absolutely is going to fuel adrenaline dominance. So you could be in utero and your mother has adrenaline dominance, and you're picking up all of that stress, all of those stress hormones from your mother, and then you're born with adrenaline dominance. Sudden death, things that shock your body, and you can feel that adrenaline kind of coursing through your veins. And oftentimes we just don't have the metabolic health to return that back to homeostasis, especially if you've had a life load of trauma and crap, right? So you just kind of get to a point where your body just can't handle all of this adrenaline anymore, and your adrenal glands become so fatigued at this stage. A rape or a violent attack is going to set someone up for an adrenaline dominance life big time. Okay, so if you couple all of this, abuse, trauma, violence, poverty, grief, couple all of that with the nutritional deficiencies, because the food that we eat today does not have the same nutrition that it used to, because of how depleted the soils are and how we're trying to have all this processed food that's just got all these toxins in it. Gut damage, it's got inflammation, you've got toxins in the water. Bad news, pandemics, money stress. So if you couple all of that, childhood stuff, or maybe you've lived through a rape or a violent attack or something along those lines, couple that with the day-to-day stress that you're dealing with, and nutritional deficiencies and gut damage and inflammation, it creates this perfect storm for your body to be holding on to too much adrenaline. And then you're going to be ending up with all these symptoms that we talked about. So after many traumas and stresses throughout your life, your adrenaline gets triggered to such a point where you end up in this kind of feedback loop where essentially you become addicted to adrenaline. Okay. So a little bit about me. I have had adrenaline dominance ever since I was a baby. I believe that I was born with adrenaline dominance because of what my mother had lived through. The home that I grew up in, there was violence, there was abuse, there was sexual abuse. I did not have a safe home. And I was, of course, I was a very shy young girl. We moved house constantly. I went to like 8 different schools, poverty, so because of this violence and abuse that I was living through, every time it would happen, so I had a stepfather who would yell and he would throw furniture and smash and just all this horrible stuff and be violent. And so because that was my childhood, and then we were always moving, poverty, I started off with a lot of adrenaline in my body. And so what ended up happening is when I got to kind of high school, I was having so many panic attacks. I was not safe at home. I didn't feel safe at school. All the teachers thought I was naughty, but I could not concentrate and I couldn't stop going to urinate. I needed to urinate like 50, 100 times a day. And I'm not even joking. So you can imagine how hard school was at that point. I was just focused, my body was just focused on survival. I couldn't learn about the freaking Pythagoras's theorem. The only thing my body could focus on was survival at this stage. Okay. So I was having a lot of panic attacks. I had undiagnosed ADHD and I got diagnosed with that in adulthood. And again, it's got a massive root cause and too much adrenaline. And then I ended up with a drug addiction and alcoholism through a large portion of my life. Okay. And so if you think about it, this is how people become drug addicts, and this is how people become alcoholics and become addicted to work and all these, things. Like you might look at someone and think, oh my God, why do you do that? Why are you like this? And then you kind of go back to their childhood and you understand that what they've lived through has created this kind of perfect hormonal storm where they behave in ways that maybe you don't understand. So what happened to me was kind of like a quite extreme example. And you might be thinking, wow, that really sounds like me and I'm really understanding this. Or you might be also thinking, none of that happened to me. Why would I be struggling with this? It doesn't have to be as extreme as what happened to me for it to be causing you a lot of symptoms. Okay. So the life I live absolutely set me up for adrenaline dominance, and of course had a lot of other health issues because of it. When you have too much adrenaline, it makes it hard for you to sleep, right? So I didn't sleep for probably 10 years. I did not sleep properly for like over 10 years. And so you kind of just get to this point again, you're not thinking straight, you can't make decisions, you're making bad career decisions and financial decisions. And again, people on the outside might say, why is she acting like that? But when you're in a stress response and then you add that you're not sleeping, because the only thing really to start to heal this, we need to focus on getting you into a really good sleep. Like that's going to be the first point of healing. Okay. But again, it's like this cycle, because when you've got too much adrenaline, it's very hard to sleep. But then when you don't sleep, it makes more adrenaline and it kind of keeps you in this awful cycle. But I'm going to teach you how to get out of it. So when you've got too much adrenaline, your body's only concerned with survival. Okay. So it's not concerned with metabolization, digestion. So this is why you end up with all these other issues. You know what I mean? Because it's just focused on this fight or flight survival mode. So you end up, like I was saying before, it downregulates your thyroid. Your thyroid is responsible for your metabolism. So once you have a downregulated thyroid because you've had too much stress, that's when you start to gain weight. And that's when you're low energy. And that's when you've got insomnia and depression, anxiety. That's when you end up with all these other health issues. Immunity is one as well. So you're not going to have a good immunity if you are living in fight or flight mode. So you might get sick all the time. And then your career gets derailed and then your finances get derailed. And it kind of ends up being this very shitty cycle. Okay, adrenaline dominance is going to express itself differently in everyone. So what I've said I've been through and how it has expressed itself in me, that might not ring true for you at all, okay? But if you've had stress in your life, you've got any of those symptoms that we started talking about at the beginning, you want to be watching more of this just to make sure that you can take the stress out of your body. Okay, so how to heal from adrenaline dominance. So, lifestyle nutrition factors are very, very important. You're not going to just go to the doctor and say, oh, wow, I've got PTSD or I've got anxiety and end up on a medication for it, because again, never ever going to heal the root cause. And what happens when you take these medications is that they cause other hormonal imbalances in the background and tend to make your symptoms worse when you want to come off the medication. So what's happened when you have adrenaline dominance is you're essentially addicted to these stress hormones. And that's what I was saying before about the person who's like, they can't just sit and watch a movie. They've got to be watching a movie, scrolling on their phone, cooking dinner. They've got to do like 10 things at once, okay? And that is big time fueled by adrenaline, because that's not, someone who isn't addicted to stress hormones doesn't behave like that. And this might be like a light bulb for you, because oftentimes this is how we've been for our whole lives, and we don't understand that it's not normal. And normal's not the right word, but it's a manifestation of the hormonal imbalance. It's not really how someone should live, because you should be able to just sit down and concentrate and watch a movie, without doing 10 other things. Okay, so you want to remove the triggers of adrenaline first. So much of this is us fueling our own adrenaline dominance, again, without knowing it, because we are addicted to these stress hormones, okay? So watching the news, okay. And I know you're thinking, well, if you watch the news, you might be thinking, yeah, but I need to know what's going on. But have you noticed that they really only report on very negative things? And you could accuse me of just burying my head in the sand and whatnot, but I do not watch the news, because guess what? There is always a horrible war going on. There is always horrible and terrible things going on that we can get outraged and angry and, fuel more adrenaline in our body. I mean, it's been happening for thousands of years. Humans have been waging war and doing terrible things, but let's just try to not turn the spotlight onto that, because there's so much good going on in the world. And you might find that you've got so much adrenaline that's actually hard for you to flip the switch and go, well, I'm going to start focusing on positive things as opposed to negative things, because you might be so addicted to that kind of negativity. TV and movies that fuel your adrenaline, again, like I'm saying, these might be your favorites. These might be the things that you love. You might love horror. You might love like a thriller, things that are going to get your heart racing and your blood pumping. Like just recently, this is like a really popular show at the moment. It's called The White Lotus, and I was watching the season 3, and I watched about maybe 3 or 4 episodes, and it triggered so much adrenaline in me. The music, just the storyline, it was actually horrible. Like when you step back, it was horrible. And I'm thinking, why am I watching this? It's making me feel anxious. It's making me feel crap. It's pumping adrenaline through my body. Why am I watching this? So I just stopped watching it. And it's just, I was quite proud of myself for that, because I would have usually just been like, well, now I need to see the end. Okay, so you might be really addicted to these kind of workouts as well. Like you're running, you're doing HIIT, you're doing that high intensity, you're doing intense workout, CrossFit. You might really love that type of exercise, but oftentimes it is fueling this adrenaline. So you're not going to be able to come out of this hormonal imbalance when your adrenaline returns back to homeostasis. While you're doing these intense workouts. So you want to be doing things more relaxing, like walking and Pilates, yoga, stretching, swimming, things that are not going to be fueling adrenaline, basically, just things that are going to relax your body as opposed to stress your body out. So you might have ADHD. You might be the type of person who's like, you're always in a rush, because you haven't actually taken the time to organize your time, right? So if you're always running late, you're always in a rush, and then you're stuck in traffic and you're getting road rage and you're getting angry, what you need to do at that moment is step back and say, well, how am I fueling this issue? Could I have left 10 minutes earlier? Could I have been more organized? Could I have done this, that, and the other thing to make my day start in not such a stressful kind of way? And you might ask yourself that and say, no, this is just, this wasn't I didn't contribute to this. Or you might ask yourself that and say, yeah, I'm really leaving things to the last minute. I'm causing my own stress. I'm in some ways doing this to myself. But again, when you are addicted to these stress hormones, it's not really until you take that step back and you go, oh my God, a lot of this is me doing it to myself. Okay, so what I've written here, I used to have a job where I taught Pilates for a very long time, 20 years. I'm an introvert, as you know, I've had this adrenaline dominance for a long time, but I am quite shy. I'm an introvert. But I used to teach these like massive, massive Pilates classes with like 30 people in them. It used to trigger such intense adrenaline within myself. And that, of course, be at night. So they'd be kind of like 6 or 7 to like 8 or 9 at night. And when I'm saying I didn't sleep for 7 years, this is part of it, because I would come home and it would take me like 4 or 5 hours for the adrenaline from doing that to release back down so I could actually go to bed. And of course, this is in my alcoholism days as well. So I would need to drink 1 or 2 bottles of wine to actually get me into that sleep. So it was kind of, again, like it was one of those things where I had to admit to myself that, hey, actually, my career at this point is contributing to my symptoms and it's worsening my health. So I had to, what happened then is that I ended up having a reformer Pilates studio where the classes were a lot smaller. But I think, for me, even teaching 10 people is probably too much, just because of the personality type I have. So it's me going, well, is this career good for my body? Is this fueling my symptoms? Is this taking me away from health, or is it taking me towards health? So I completely restructured how I did my job. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to clean up your diet so you can lower inflammation. It's going to be really hard to release adrenaline if you're living in an inflamed state, because again, inflammation is going to fuel the adrenaline. Soy is going to cause a lot of inflammation. It's very, very bad for the gut. It's very bad for your hormones. You want to be cutting out all soy products, especially soy protein isolate. It's in like a lot of prepackaged food. So you want to check labels. I want you checking labels. It's really important. Red 40, yellow 5 dye. So those are really common triggers for this kind of trauma and adrenaline stress response in your body. So you might be watching this and think, well, this doesn't ring true for me, but my child has ADHD, and I see that they get triggered when they have soy or the dyes or the colors and all of that. So this whole thing can be good information maybe for you, or maybe your child, or maybe both of you, or maybe your family. Citric acid made from mold, it's going to fuel inflammation, and it raises estrogen, gets your body into an inflamed state. Natural flavorings, like what are they? But yeah, they're generally toxic. It's hard to say what they are, but I would just, if you've got these issues, especially if your children have these issues, you want to be making sure that you are looking at the label and making sure you're not having any of the foods with these natural flavorings. Synthetic sugars, BHA, BHT preservatives, MSG, so that's a soy derivative, and it's in like when you go to like maybe like a Chinese restaurant, it's a flavoring that they would use. And when you don't have it, it's very interesting. When you don't have it for a long period of time and then you have it, it can give you a headache. It can give you that racing heart. Like if I went out and I had dinner at a Chinese restaurant with MSG, I would hop into bed that night and my heart would be racing and I'd be sweating and I'd be anxious, and it can give a lot of issues. And that might not be the case for you. This might not trigger you, but it can trigger a lot of people with adrenaline dominance. So really you're taking all of this with a grain of salt and you're thinking, does this trigger me? But the thing is, guys, is you've really got to cut it all out before you're going to know, right? Corn syrup, GMO, nitrates, it's like in everything. It's all this stuff, and it's really annoying because all of this stuff that we've just talked about is in so much of our modern food, right? Inflammatory PUFA seed oil, so that's polyunsaturated fatty acids. These are in almost everything, almost all prepackaged food. It's so annoying because these are really, really fueling gut inflammation. It's going to make all of your hormonal imbalances worse, not just this particular one. Canola oil, vegetable oil, nuts and seeds, these are all PUFA inflammatories. I just posted on Facebook, and it was just like the main food that is given to like people in hospital. It's like this like health science, and it's Nestle, so they've done their own health science. And the main ingredient is canola oil and soy protein isolate. So the people in hospital are going to be having this. It's going to be fueling a lot of inflammation, fueling a lot of hormonal imbalances. So it's just tragic. Foods with pesticides, you want to try to get as organic as possible. You don't want to be having your spinach covered in pesticides, your bread covered in pesticides, cereal, all that type of stuff. If you're, and this is what you want to think about with your children as well. Like, are they being exposed to pesticides? Because it's definitely going to be fueling their symptoms. Gluten can have a negative effect on the gut. Like, this isn't for everyone. Some people are fine on gluten, not a lot actually, but some are. But what is a really good switch is to move to an organic sourdough. So you're not having the gluten and you're not having the pesticides, and it like tastes so much better, I reckon. Alcohol is such a fuel for adrenaline dominance, especially because it keeps you out of that deep sleep state. If you're serious about healing these symptoms, you want to say to yourself, right, can I just go a month without alcohol? And you might say at this stage, no, I can't, because guess what? I was there as well. If someone said to me when I was in the thick of this, well, yeah, you've got to quit alcohol to blah, blah, blah. And I would have thought, well, I can't do that, but that's the adrenaline talking. That's the addiction talking. And that's what's causing these addictions, because it's like, it's not that you want to be at a point where you can be perfect in your diet. It's never going to be like that. Once you've healed from adrenaline dominance and you're sleeping well and you've got energy and you don't have that anxiety, yeah, you could go out and have a glass of wine, but while you're in the healing phase, it's really important that you want to be cutting this alcohol out, just because of the inflammatory ingredients and of how it impacts your sleep. Omega-3s, fish oils, again, these are the PUFAs that we're talking about, but so many people think these are really, really healthy. They're causing inflammation. Basically, what they do is they cause a stress response in your body. So again, with adrenaline dominance, we want to do everything within our power to take that stress response off of our body and to release stress from the body. Fish oil is going to keep you stuck in this stress loop. Okay, so lifestyle strategies, walking every day, like that is one of the best things you can ever do for someone with adrenaline dominance. And you might find it very boring. You might think, well, no, I don't want to go for a walk. I'd rather go for a run, because that, again, that's going to fuel your adrenaline. So walking on the flat, I'm not talking about walking up a steep hill and, getting your heart pumping. That we want to do things that are going to take the stress off your body as opposed to add to the stress. Okay. So just walking 45 minutes, that's releasing all of those relaxation hormones, and it's just going to take so much stress off your body. Sun on your skin. Again, you want to see if you can get it into your eyes. Like, don't look at the sun. I'm not meaning like look directly at the sun, but just go for your walk without sunglasses on. Even on an overcast day, you're going to find that that is a really good way for you to relax and start lowering adrenaline naturally. Go to bed earlier. But you might be someone who, if you did that, you would just lie there for hours. Okay, so we're going to have some more sleep strategies, because there is a point. If you think, just imagine what I've been through, did not sleep for 7 years after the trauma that I lived, and had all these addictions. So now I can sleep. So if I can do it, I promise you, we can get you into this deep sleep and get you starting to heal. Low stress workouts, as I was saying before, walking, strength training, so lifting weights, slowly. You're not freaking going crazy on them and none of that, because it's going to increase the adrenaline. Okay, Pilates, yoga, swimming, stretching, gentle. Don't watch a TV. Don't watch stressful TV programs in the news, I recommend. Okay, so nutritional therapy. One of our really important ones that I take my clients through is a recipe called the adrenal cocktail. And it's just one that's going to nourish your adrenals and get you to lower adrenaline naturally. And it works very, very well. And it's super simple. And I think it tastes very nice. Orange juice. So it's all about getting that vitamin C. Vitamin C is very important for lowering adrenaline. And it's got 1/4 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar. Okay, so the salt is the essential elements. All of the cells in your body need, this is sea salt we're talking. This is not table salt, that sodium stuff. This is the real deal sea salt. Cream of tartar is potassium. That's going to, again, work to nourish your adrenal glands and lower stress naturally. L-theanine is awesome. Okay, so if you've got these symptoms, you want to be getting on an L-theanine. I like the Go Healthy Stress formula. It supports adrenal glands, lessens a triggered nervous system, and it just allows you to have calm, and it works very, very well. The same with the full spectrum oil. So if you've got any of these symptoms, you're going to want to get onto the full spectrum oil as well. I would recommend a chronic dosage for you. It's going to support the adrenal glands, lower adrenaline naturally. It lowers inflammation in the gut, it supports the liver, supports healthy bowel movements. And again, one of the main awesome functions of full spectrum oil is it allows you to sleep and allows you to get into that deep sleep. So really, really important. And again, that's why I've written magnesium here, magnesium chloride. It's going to get you in that very deep sleep. It's going to take stress off a triggered nervous system. So if you're doing the lifestyle strategies we talked about, you start adding in the adrenal cocktail, you're doing the L-theanine, you're doing full spectrum oil, magnesium, salt, sugar, and dairy are also very, very important for lowering stress. So if you start doing all of these things and going to bed earlier, you're going to notice a shift, and it might not be immediate, but you just got to stick at it. Like I remember when I quit alcohol when I was like in the thick of my adrenaline dominance. And for the first few weeks, I was going to bed early because when you've been an alcoholic and then you stop drinking, you just got nothing to do. So you go to bed earlier. And that was good. That was very good for me. But for the first few weeks, I just remember lying there for like hours, and it was like hell. But after that, that's when I started to get to a point where I was able to sleep. But for the first few weeks. So I don't want you to get to a point where you're going, well, this isn't working. You've got to give it time. You can't be adrenaline dominant for X amount of years and then boom, you're not. Okay, you've got to do all these strategies. And that's why I wrote the pro-thyroid eating plan. So it's about getting your thyroid working correctly so you can start losing weight and lowering inflammation. But the thing is, guys, if you've had adrenaline dominance for a long time, it's very, very unlikely that your thyroid is working correctly. And that's why you end up with a lot of these other different symptoms as well. So that's why I wrote these plans, just this particular 12-week plan, because it's all about taking stress off your body, and it just teaches you exactly how to do that. Okay, so another strategy you're going to use, and this is going to be a game changer. You've got to raise progesterone naturally. Progesterone is your body's hormone that is anti-anxiety, it's calming, it's anti-stress, okay? And it tends to get depleted because when your adrenal glands are fatigued and functioning, doing more than they should, they tend to end up stealing your progesterone to turn it into these stress hormones. So you tend to end up deficient and your calming and anti-anxiety hormone. And of course, that just creates more symptoms, right? So it's a really simple one. But what I wouldn't recommend, like a lot of people just want like a magic fix. They just want to go, well, I'm not going to change my lifestyle, but I just give me a pill, give me a cream. I want it magic. And that's not how it works. You've got to do the lifestyle strategies, the nutritional therapy strategies, and add the progesterone as well. So you're doing all of those three things together. That's what's going to be life-changing. It's not generally just one thing, because people might want to go, well, I'm not going to quit drinking and I'm not going to stop watching my horror shows till 2 a.m., but I just want to take the progesterone so I So sorry about that. I just got cut off because we had a power cut. So anyway, so just doing the progesterone therapy on its own is not enough. You need to be combining it with the powerful lifestyle strategies, which are going to help your symptoms massively. So I recommend Owner's Bioidentical Progesterone Cream, and you get it from au.ownersnatural.com, and it is an incredible product. You'd probably be starting off with the 3% or the 5%, and it's just a cream that you're applying to thin-skinned areas, and you're doing it about 4 times per day with food. I must say that the more severe your adrenaline dominance, the higher you are going to need to go. And I was dosing at the 10%, which is 100 milligrams per pump. And I was dosing that almost every 1 or 2 hours at the start, just to get my adrenaline down enough to allow me to get into sleep to start healing this hormonal imbalance. So just go by how you feel. So there's never a point where I could meet a client and say, well, this is exactly what you should take, because you're going to have to go by how you feel. And you're going to feel, when you take the progesterone cream, you're going to feel almost immediately that your adrenaline is lowered. And that's how you know that you've taken enough. So if you did 1 pump of the 3% and you're not feeling your adrenaline lowering, you might need to do another couple of pumps just to get that adrenaline lowered. So go by how you feel, but it is an incredible product that I recommend to all of my clients with adrenaline dominance. So just to recap, So what are we going to do if you're feeling like you've got these symptoms, you've heard the story, you're thinking, yep, I've got adrenaline dominance. So you're going to cut out the things that are triggering adrenaline, going to bed earlier, prioritizing sleep. You're going to be adding magnesium, full spectrum oil, L-theanine, and the adrenal cocktail. You're going to go for a daily walk in the sun, do your relaxing kind of stretching, yoga kind of meditation stuff. Lower inflammation, heal the gut with a pro-metabolic, pro-thyroid eating plan, and raise progesterone levels naturally. So you're going to do all of those strategies together to allow you to be free from these symptoms. So what we've got on the Hormone Health website is a specific adrenaline dominant supplement package. And it's got the magnesium, it's got the full spectrum oil, it's got the L-theanine that I absolutely love, and it's got the meal plan that I've developed that is just an amazing way to get your thyroid functioning well. As I've said before, when you've got these high stress levels, your thyroid is not functioning to its full potential, and it gets down regulated, and you end up, gaining weight, no energy, inflamed gut. And this is the meal plan that I've developed over 12 weeks to heal you from the inside out. So it's an incredible package, which I absolutely love. And of course, you go to the owner's website to get the progesterone there. So I am really, really grateful that you watched this. And I would absolutely love to hear from you after you've put these strategies into place. And I hope that you can feel amazing from these awesome strategies. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.